Mets, Red Sox, Yankees, those are some of the big teams, but many forget about one of the greatest teams in the history of Connecticut. And here to remind us about that team is Christopher Gallo. He is the author of Unlikely Champions, A Miracle in Williamsport. So this is interesting how you ended up writing this book. It's all about the Trumbull team, 1989, but you were not there. You're an accountant.
Right, I'm a CPA.
So how did you end up writing this book?
Well, it's one of those things that you never know how ideas are going to kind of hit you between the eye. And about 4.5 years ago, I was playing golf one day with Tom Gallo, who was the coach of that team. And after we played golf, we sat down at the club. We're having some dinner and a drink. And I introduced Tom.
A couple of drinks? Okay, don't lie to us. Okay.
And we had a few other fellows there who didn't know who Tom was. I introduced them around, and conversation obviously turned to baseball and Little League baseball. And when we got to kind of one of those breaking points, I said to Tom, I said, why haven't you written a book about this? It's a great story. Mm-hmm. I mean, a really special group of kids that did something that nobody expected to have them do. And he just kind of shrugged his shoulder, and I looked at him and I said, would you mind?
I guess
I got myself into writing a book and didn't know anything about writing a book at that time, but I figured it out.
So was it a fun experience, or was it a challenge? Yeah.
It was difficult. At first I didn't know what to do, where to start. I did a lot of research on Google. And
on how to write a book?
On how to write a book. Oh, yeah, on how to write a book. How to, first of all, try to get a publisher. And that didn't work. Guy said, well, baseball books don't work as well. Little League, I've tried that. And so I decided to self-publish, but I didn't really know where to go. And I eventually figured it out. So
once you figured all of the business side of it out, tell us about the story. Take us back to 1989. It's a very intriguing story about a group of young, talented guys from Connecticut.
Right. Well, it's one of those things that, I think the Little League coaches of the Trumbull national team that year, and they knew along the way, they knew this one fellow, Chris Drury, who pitched a championship game. They knew he was a special athlete, and they knew that the kids around him, the other kids in the league, were pretty good. And so they hoped, but 7,000 teams start the season, and only one's going to end up as the champion. And how do you really know? And as opposed to Major League Baseball, when you get to the World Series, you have to win only have to win 4 out of 7. In Little League, once you get to the state tournament, you can't afford to lose a game. You have to win every single game. There's no more tomorrow if you don't win today.
How many games are there in the championship?
They played 16 that year.
16 games, wow.
At that point, it was a single elimination tournament in 1989. Today, they play a double elimination, but that then today's format creates a little different issue in that you need more pitching. In 1989, they were able to get away with only having 2 really outstanding
pitchers.
They had a third one, but he broke his arm that summer delivering newspapers. He fell off his bike and broke his arm.
Yeah, I
so they were stuck with
only
today. 2.
Yeah. So tell us how you actually wrote the book. You had to reach out to some of these players, I'm assuming, right, to get the stories?
Well, I talked to Tom Gallo and David, his son, who was a second baseman, and asked them for contact information for everybody. And I sent emails telling them what I was doing and asked if I could set up an interview with them. And about half of the kids responded, and about half of them didn't respond.
Why didn't they respond? You would think they would want to be involved?
I don't really know. A few of them did respond. I just didn't want to get involved. Thank you so much for asking. Good luck on the book and everything, but I don't want to participate. But a number of the fellows didn't, and I was curious as to why. And talking to some of the parents of the kids, who are now my age, they said, sometimes at 37 years old, you get a little tired of talking about what you did when you were 12.
Yeah.
They're kind of over that. They're over it. Others embrace the whole thought of somebody writing a book. And in particular, a few of the guys were extremely generous with their time, where I spent hours and hours with them. And one of the kids on the team lives in Australia.
Really?
Right. He lived in Australia. I think he's just in the process of moving to Minnesota.
Oh, I don't know if you traveled out there to get a little scoop on the book.
I thought about it, but I did it through emails. I sent him a list of 5 pages of questions, and he responded with 17 pages of responses.
Wow, so he was really into it then. Speaking of somebody else who is really into it, Chris Berman, Boomer from ESPN, he actually wrote the foreword of the book, which is pretty cool. How did you get him on board?
Well, Chris and I knew each other at Brown University. That's where we first met. I was the senior, and he was a freshman broadcaster for the basketball games at Brown.
Really?
And so we've stayed in touch over the years, but it's a long story, and I'll cut it down to the essentials. But the book was all put to bed. It was done. I was going to press. I had 2 blank pages in the book for Chris to have.
So you called up your buddy Chris.
And I kept on, I've been calling him up every week for about 2.5 months. And finally one day when the book was done,
That's
have the
funny.
car packed, we're going to Cape Cod for a week. I needed a break because I've been working till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning to wrap up the book. And next thing I know, I get this call, my caller ID, it says
Chris
no
Berman.
caller ID.
Oh, so
and it's Chris Berman.
Well, hey.
So that's how we got it.
The name of the book again is Unlikely Champions, A Miracle in Williamsport. Great book. Thanks again for coming on
My
CT
pleasure.
Style.
Thank you.